For those of you that feel like you're crazy and everybody else thinks you're crazy, maybe you're not crazy.
Welcome to Autism and Us, a channel where we open the doors to our home and share our experiences living with a child on the spectrum.
We are by no means experts. We've made a lot of mistakes, hopefully done some things right too. And we just want to share our experiences with you. So this is not a how-to channel, this is just us. So Autism and Us.
Yeah, and we'll talk more in other videos about kind of our background and about us and kind of our, goal for the channel. But today we want to talk about just our story and getting
started.
Our son Sean diagnosed. We first noticed really you when he was
around three in preschool. He had been in a large class, and that class then kind of divided based on like a birthday cutoff, and he was right at that cutoff where he was the younger of the group that went on to this was like a threes class in preschool, and he had always been that there had never been any concern for how he did with other kids during the day, and socially everything was fine. But then around this shift, we noticed that he started having more conflict with other kids in the class, and there was some like pushing and shoving and things like that would happen. And it seemed a lot to do with just being able to be understood by the other kids, which his speaking and language, I feel like, developed pretty normally. Yeah. That wasn't one of the first signals, actually. Although in hindsight, looking back and saying this, maybe there was more there that I should have noticed. But the main thing was that he was having kind of some daily complaints that I was getting when I would pick him up from the teacher. And so that's when we started talking about things. We ended up going through a series of tests with him, and he was very borderline. Like, I remember looking at your answers on some of the, like, because you have to fill out things like how often does he do this or that, and I know that some of those things that I was seeing you scored a little lower on because you didn't see as much, and that's okay.
And when they went to elementary school and kindergarten, this was kind of,
presented itself again. The teachers pretty much just like sat us down and said, these are some of the things that we're noticing about Sean. And a lot of it was attention related or like social skills. Like he was, at recess, wasn't engaging with any of the other kids. He was humming and just kind of pacing around the playground. And first off, I was like, well, good, because I told him that, not to do he's a hummer, and I was like, I don't want him to be humming in class, so good, he's doing that at the right time. But he was choosing that instead of choosing a social interaction, which had the teachers concerned, and so they wanted to present that to us, and just not necessarily noticing his surroundings. Like if everybody else in the class was lined up or something, that was something that was notable that he might not realize, oh, the rest of my class is lined up. So that goes back to is that hyper focus, that he was so in his own zone and so in his own world and his own thought that he didn't necessarily pick up on what everybody else around him was doing. So obviously there are some concerns about that, but also there's some really good about that, because that his focus is so superior in that way that he can really attend to what he chooses. Teachers are limited on what they can say. Like they can't technically say, at least in Texas, hey, you should get your kid tested. So it's kind of up to you to take what feedback they're giving you and what observations they're giving you and decide what you need to do with that, because fortunately or unfortunately, however you want to look at that, they can't just come out and say, well, you should probably get your kid tested. Just to give you a little hope out there for others of you that are in this, in the process of this, or haven't yet, gotten a diagnosis, or maybe still hurting a little bit from the diagnosis. Like, I know that for us, it didn't change anything. Like,
right.
we love our boy, the exact same, regardless of any label attached to him. But what makes it kind of painful, or one of the things, is just how it's presented that there's a problem, that this is a problem, and we have since learned that while there are things that are more challenging for him, that there is nothing wrong with him. Like, his brain is just different. And what we are learning as we go through this journey is how we can better understand the ways that he thinks differently.
And what strengths to come with that. There are certain things that children and adults that are high on the spectrum do especially well. My law partner likes to say, you want some kid that's high functioning or somebody with Asperger's, you want them to be the one operating on your heart or on your brain, because they are super laser focused and they are the best at what they do when they focus on that thing. And so once we were able to get those accommodations, we really saw a huge improvement in school with Sean. And Sean's going to talk a little bit about those accommodations he got and what it meant to him once he got diagnosed with autism. Hey, Sean.
Hi.
So, your mom and I were just talking a little bit about how our journey to get you diagnosed with autism. Can you tell them a little bit what it was like when you found out that you had autism?
Well, I don't really remember, but I was probably, when I found out, I was probably like playing with toys or something upstairs. And when my parents told me, so I was probably not even paying attention. And I'm like, oh, y'all will. I have autism, okay. So, but then later I was really like, oh, I hate autism.
Why do you say that? Why do you hate autism?
Well, I don't I hate it, it's very hard to have.
Yeah. What's the hardest thing about it?
Having different needs and feeling like, and when other people are not used to acknowledging those needs, sometimes they will just not acknowledge them and are a little more harsh on me.
And what are those kind of needs that maybe you need a little bit more attention with?
Paying attention. Another one is focusing, which is probably basically the same thing as paying attention.
What about when noises are really loud and everything and there's lots of stuff going on?
Concentrating.
Yeah. Is that extra hard when you kind of have like noises and lots of stuff going on?
Yeah.
What are some things that maybe you've talked about with your special ed teachers to help you deal with some of those things?
Ask to walk away and have a moment.
What other ways has it helped, just having kind of it acknowledged there in school, and what other kind of accommodations and stuff have you gotten to help you in school?
Well, I feel like I have more support, and I feel like my teachers care about meeting my needs. It just makes me feel kind of good.
Okay. What would you tell to other kind of kids out there with autism? What would you tell them about autism and getting diagnosed with autism?
Well, if you're a kid out there and you're getting diagnosed with autism, it's not, I mean, it will be hard to have autism, but it's not the end of the world. So, because God made you with God, that's how God made you. That's how He wants you to be. There will be good reasons, I assure you, that why God made you how you are. Trust God and what He is ready for you.
Thanks, man.
So, I've met a lot of people who have had questions about, like, well, why get diagnosed at all?
Right.
And one of the number one reasons that I've heard people say that is because, like, I don't want my kid to have a label. I don't want to label them with something. They're fine the way they are. I don't want them to have any, negative attention due to a label.
So the question is then, why get diagnosed in the first place?
So, and this is going to be just, as I said before, my experience or our experience, and not by any means am I saying that this is the way to do it. But in our experience, by having that diagnosis, there is, I feel like, a door that opens up to you for all kinds of different resources and benefits and just a chance for greater understanding. It's good to know that the way that a person thinks is considered when you're dealing with that person's education, when you're dealing with that person's just social learning, because I think that when you have those resources at school to help your child, the benefit of that, in my experience, far outweighs any negative connotation. We are no experts here, but that's just a little bit more about why we chose to go ahead and have Sean be diagnosed.